A study from the Interior Department reveals more than 500 Native American and Indigenous children died at government-run boarding schools during the 19th and 20th centuries. Officials warn that number will grow exponentially as the study continues. Many of these facilities have been accused of erasing their students' Native identities and assimilating them into white society. The study is the first time the federal government has acknowledged its past role in creating and implementing these forced assimilation programs. Joining us now to discuss these findings is Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland. Secretary, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. You are the first Native American to serve as a cabinet secretary for the United States government. You launched this initiative looking into the actions of the very department you now lead. There's never been a study like this before. What impact do you hope this research will have?
Thank you very much, Elaine. I'm so happy to be here to talk about this important issue. I mean, ultimately, we want this to be a study that heals people. There's been so much trauma across the country because of the federal Indian boarding school policies. They were assimilation policies for close to 200 years here in our country. Some survivors can tell their own stories. Other people are descendants of survivors and are dealing with intergenerational trauma even today. So we're hoping that this will give people an opportunity to heal. Ultimately, we come to terms with this really horrible past that we have in our country.
In volume 1 of the study, your department located more than 400 boarding schools in the U.S. and found burial sites at 53 of them. What are researchers looking for in volumes 2 and beyond?
So what's going to happen next is we're going to take a year and we're going to travel around the country to locations where these boarding schools existed. We're going to talk to survivors. We're going to talk to descendants. We're going to give them an opportunity to tell their stories. It's so important that we create an oral history. And this is the way that we can tell America's story. This is all part of America's story. It's part of our job, what we do here at the Department of the Interior. And so over the next year, that's what we'll be doing. And that will further inform the next steps after that.
Well, armed with this research, what else can the U.S. government and your agency do to address the harm these schools caused?
Indeed. Well, President Biden is very committed to the trust responsibility that exists between the federal government and tribal nations. We are working hard to make sure that we live up to those obligations in healthcare, education. Right now there are some tribes, for example, who don't have broadband internet service. They're still working on dial-up. There's a lot of work that we can do to make sure that tribes have what they need to address the issues that they have in all those areas. And I feel very confident that with President Biden leading all of us, this all-of-government approach to address Indian tribes, we will live up to the trust responsibility that we have.
Could this lead to reparations for Native Americans in the future?
You know, Native Americans, the tribal nations have a unique relationship with the U.S. government. It's a government-to-government relationship. And so that if we can live up to our obligations in that government-to-government relationship, I feel that that is really what the United States needs to do. And we're going to work very hard to make sure that that happens.
Finally, Secretary Haaland, on another topic, in your remarks last week, you mentioned how your ancestors lived sustainably in the Southwest. Now, as you know, the area is seeing a mega drought. The Colorado River system provides water for 40 million Americans, but two of its largest reservoirs, Lake Mead and Lake Powell, are at historically low levels. How concerned are you about the water supply in that region?
We're concerned every single day. As you mentioned, it's an historic drought. There's not enough water to go around. There are Indian tribes, farmers, businesses, community leaders, our fish and our ecosystems all rely on these water sources. There's an urgent need. And so we're very grateful for the bipartisan infrastructure law, which will give $8.3 billion toward this issue. We want to help make sure that we can assist communities in adaptation. This is a result of climate change. And so it's not likely that this drought will go away anytime soon. We're really going to have to find ways to live with it. But we want to make sure that we're talking to people on the ground. And in fact, my team here at the Department of the Interior is in close contact with real people who live in those areas. We're going to find some solutions for that.
Yeah, Secretary Haaland, you say ways to live with it. What is the long-term plan if this drought continues?
We are using every tool in the toolbox. And it's about how we adapt to this new normal with respect to climate change. And this historic drought, it's lasted for several years now. We'll just need to find ways to live with it. But we're using every tool in the toolbox and relying on folks on the ground to help us determine what that looks like for them.
Interior Secretary Deb Haaland. Madam Secretary, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.